Yeah, they really are. Houston is sitting there with multiple number ones at 2 and 12. If they trade out of 2, that means they're probably going to get maybe another number 1, definitely another number 2. Seattle is sitting there with 2 picks. At one point there was thoughts that Seattle might go quarterback, but I think Seattle's going to take the massive defensive tackle out of the University of Georgia to rebuild their defense. Detroit, which has really done a good job under that front office and that coaching staff. Lions are sitting there with 2 number 1 picks at 6 and 18. Might they be one, because Jared Goff's in the final year of his contract, might they be the one that makes a bold move up because they got extra currency? And the Eagles, coming off the great Super Bowl appearance, they draft at 10, and then they draft again at 30. Overall, the Raiders have the most picks of all, and they need the most picks because they've got one of the worst defenses in the league. Raiders have 12 draft picks total, led by that first-round pick at number 7. The Rams don't have a number 1. For the 7th year in a row, they don't have a number 1. It is incredible. But they did get to a Super Bowl, so they paid it. But as I told you, when the wife spends on your credit card, you do have to pay somewhere down the road. It looks like the Rams are probably about to pay. The Rams have 11 picks. We've got to San Francisco by virtue of a lot of comp picks that they got from the league because they lost so many free agents. The 49ers have got 11. Belichick has got 11. And Houston, in addition to those 2 first-round picks, Houston Texans have 11 too. San Francisco has done the exact same thing. Belichick in New England has done the exact same thing. So here we are. We've got a lot of teams with a lot of currency. And I know you say, well, John, Lee, it's not sexy. Who cares about 5th, 6th, and 7th round picks? I understand that, but you can find gems in the draft. And you can also take, when you got multiples of picks, and Belichick is the master of this. He's got all these 4th and 5th and 6th round picks. He packages them, and then suddenly he's in the 3rd round with an additional pick by having moved some lower round picks, and you can find players. And now the wild card in this whole thing, and I was told this today, they are now talking, the rumor mill says there could be as many as 16 quarterbacks drafted. And you say, Lee, wow, where are these 16? I mean, we know about top 5, maybe. The Brock Purdy factor. Now suddenly is of the opinion, look what San Francisco found with the last pick in the draft. What was he, 235?
Mr. Irrelevant.
That's right. Now teams are saying, let's do some more investigation of these other quarterbacks that we might take late. Grow them, develop them, and maybe we find a gem. There's a 6'4" quarterback from Shepherd State of West Virginia, an NAIA school, Division II.
Really?
He threw for 45 touchdowns this year.
Wow.
But that's a 6'4" kid throwing against real small cornerbacks. And if you run a wild system, all done to cover it, Shepherd State type kid is the prime example of why suddenly people are talking about, well, there's 16 quarterbacks. We might take a look at a bunch of them at the back end. So the Brock Purdy factor kind of weighs into this equation. Reaction.
Yeah, this is interesting here when you look at the big board, but teams like the Texans have so many picks, but there's been a lot of examples in the NFL draft of teams just consistently blowing the draft, right? Never picking right. I mean, so you look at some of these teams, Texas is equipped to really do the right thing.
Well, DeMeco Ryans, I think, is carrying a lot of clout in this draft. He, of course, is the new head coach from the San Francisco 49ers, great track record. They've been building towards this. You can't look at it in the standings and say, oh, they've got this success. They've had no success because they had no quarterback. I mean, if you recall, if we were doing this podcast 2 years ago today out from left field here, they had Deshaun Watson.
Oh, yeah.
They had DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
Had J.J. Watt. Had the big running back from San Diego who got hurt, but his first 2 years in the league.
Is that Foster?
That's right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there have been teams that decided we're not going to pay these guys anymore. They're getting long in the tooth. We'll move them. We'll stockpile. We'll suffer. But somewhere along the way, you got to get a quarterback in the league because it's a quarterback's league. And for Houston at number 2, for them to sit there and maybe bypass on C.J. Stroud, because it looks like Carolina's taking Bryce Young, is that a good decision? because there's no guarantee next year you're going to get Caleb Williams from USC, and it's supposed to be a soft year for quarterbacks next year in the draft. I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it kind of does. I mean, because you look at these teams and a lot of them, yeah, they're loaded. I mean, even the Raiders have a lot of picks, right? And the Raiders have been awful for so long, but they've consistently blown a lot of their draft picks.
On the defensive side, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they've been in a lot of trouble. So this is all part of the fascination of this because, some of these organizations are so well run. They're the teams, they'll vary from, like the Steelers will go from being mediocre to great. They never seem to be in the bottom half, or if they do, it's like a one-off year. So I'm interested to see if some of these teams are going to be able to kind of flip this system around and see them catapult, from the bottom to the top.